So I've been looking at what I did last week on this and deciding where to go from here. There's one little thing that's been bothering me, and that's that these darks that I put in here are too dark and too sort of solidly dark. If we look at the photograph, it's not nearly so dark. This one also comes all the way through. And I'm also seeing one other little thing, is the shape here. Let's just make this a little more interesting shape so it's a little different than the other shape. And then I'm going to break this one up so that it isn't solidly dark. This is the one easy thing with watercolor, is lifting away some of those darks. When you get them too dark, and once again, this can come out and into there just a little bit. There, that's a little bit better. Now, what else needs to be fixed here just a little bit? I have a mid-tone green mixed up here, and I'm going to add a little bit more yellow to it. It was a sap green, and I'm going to add a little bit of yellow to it because what I want to do is come in and do some of the mid-tones of the greens down in this lower area here. So we're going to come in a little bit darker than what we did and leave some of those light places back behind. And yeah, I think that'll still be okay. So we have a leaf. We have a leaf that comes in through here. We have a stem that's got a lot of light to it, but it's got a darker side that runs back in through here, back in through there. That flower, okay, we'll just make that stem there. Let this leaf be here. Some of these things I'm just going to have to make up because they're a little bit different than what I'm actually seeing here. I'm also, another thing that I think will be helpful, I'm seeing something else here, and that is a negative space right in here that is going to be helpful, and maybe a little tiny bit more there, and a little one, let's see, that's that. There's a little triangle right in there, and these little tiny negative spaces help sort of break areas apart and make it a little easier to see what's going on with the flowers. Okay, so that's that. Now I'm going to come back in and work a little bit more on the rest of this area over here. There's a row, just sort of leaf shapes. We're just trying to do some leaf shapes. Not trying to get this too defined, but just find a little bit of this. Some more leaf shapes back in there. Maybe those leaf shapes go up and under there. Better to make them a little big than a little small. And just sort of boldly looking at what the basic feeling of them is without getting too detailed. And let's see, that can have some. So these are just sort of mid-tone greens. It's really warm today. This is going to dry fairly fast. I'll be able to come back in with darker pieces on top of there fairly quickly. And let's, that area there, I just want to try and get sort of that mid-tone green working in there rather than that real dark. And yeah, let's get some more shape up in there. Shapes are such an important part of this. And oh, there was one other thing here, and that was the shape right in here. This leaf had a little, and then that rounded there. So now, some of those darker greens, let's start working. This mixture was my sap green and my ultramarine blue. So it's a dark green, depending on how thick I put it on here, depends on how dark it's going to be. But let's go ahead and start finding I want to find the outside edge of some of these leaves that were there. At this point, I'm not drawing anything on it. I'm just coming in and trying to find shapes by painting around them. I'm not worrying about getting everything. And definitely don't want to get everything, but I want to get some of the feeling of this, and find some stems, find another leaf that sticks out here. And then maybe some of this is going to get a little bit lighter green around it. And that was what I was sort of hesitating. This, like, do I come in and do this lighter green on here now? And the answer, I think, is yes, because then it can bleed into what I just did. Oh, we had that stem that we did there. Let's let some of these be leaves. And maybe find some more spaces out here. Crossovers, not getting too detailed, but still finding some of these spaces. Paint around a leaf. Find another leaf there. And then I'm going to see a leaf that comes up this way. And maybe another leaf that's a little bigger that comes up that other way. And then find it in between. Find the other side of this stem. Find a leaf that runs off that way. Just sort of fun in a way. At this point, I can even look away from the photograph and just start inventing things. As long as I keep in mind that I want the edges of those flowers to be interesting, I want to see some shapes of leaves, and I've got to be careful that I don't just outline the leaves and leave an outline around them, so I've got to bring that back. Got to be some leaves. Fill that in, get that filled. And yeah, let's just cover those, and those white spaces that I had can become leaves. Come in between those flowers a little bit. Just sort of finding some of these shapes. There's some more darker bits in here. Let's just do some sort of cross backs and forths to get some of those darker bits without getting too detailed with it, letting some of that stem feel come down in here, but having leaves sort of cross over them. Now, we had some leaves over in here that now can get some darker pieces around them. Some darker pieces around that. Leaf is going to go back behind there, and maybe it's going to fill in between these spaces. Let's see, that leaf maybe has a run down like that. A little more leaf space. Just have to be careful about making anything too strong in here. Maybe we need to thin this a little bit with that other green. Just let that be a smaller piece there. And then we need some more working through here so that we don't end up making that too strong. Just give it some buddies. And this is going to be pretty dark right in here. Finding the edge of a leaf. Maybe finding some more little bits. These little triangles sometimes help make something stand out. And a little bit behind there. A little bit behind there. A little bit behind there. Behind this flower, And maybe some darker bits there. Now, I think I still need to go a little darker up in this corner. Not entirely, but just some pieces. Once again, I'm just sort of doing this uneven, finding some spaces. There's actually some brown back in there. Oh yes, we can find some spaces in tight on some of these flowers. Once again, it's not solid, not as solid as it is over in that area, but it is going to help make these flowers stand out a little bit more. And then maybe we'll find some more dark bits up in here. And get pretty close to that green. I'm afraid if I do much more, we could be darker up in here, perhaps for part of it, but let's leave some light behind. I don't want that to be solid. Once again, that place is maybe a little too uniform looking, so let's just get some more dark bits in here. We also had, there's one more flower in the photograph. I wonder what's going to happen here. Let's just try it. If I paint that flower in now on top of this green, is it going to look weird? It might. So one of the problems with doing it this way is that it might look too solid, and the red might look too opaque on top of that green and not look quite right. But it also is a darker flower back in there, and if I'm going to do that there, then I'm probably going to have to do some more of these somewhere else so that this doesn't feel wrong. Yeah, I could do, we could do with just a little feeling of red up there. There's actually, yeah, sure, let's just put a little bit of yellow in there. Now, my next thing is on these flowers, I actually could have some little bit darker places in them. So I'm going to mix some of my quinacridone rose with this vermilion. Is that going to get me dark enough? Now I'm going to add a little cad red to it. Cadmium red. Yeah, I think that's going to get me a better red. All right. So now, down in here, in this flower, I'm seeing some little bit darker places, and yeah, right back in there. Just going to make those other leaves stand out a little bit more, and then maybe that's a little darker there, right down, yeah, right down into that. Okay, and behind this leaf, a little bit darker, and up. The shadow actually that's running across there. This could be even a little darker up in here. Now let me soften some of those edges, not all of them. This has a shadow running across here. Which means that all can be darker. And then the stamen comes out. And I might have to come back in even with some darker in there. But let's get a little darker right here. Make that stand out a little better there. A little darker on this side of this petal. And maybe there. Okay. This guy here, I don't want that light. That yellow has a roundness to it. Okay. And in here. We need some more darks just sort of running across through here. Yeah, that's better already. And how about this one? Goes dark down into that center of that flower, and then there's some darks that run part way up this. And there. Once again, some sort of stamens that run around there. And let's those guys are going to look better that way. And up in here, we were going to go darker, but I want it to stand out. We're just going to go darker across those, and that still stands out, and we still have those yellow pieces behind. All right, and the last thing, well, sort of the last two things that we need to do on this, these little spots on the flowers, I'm seeing them as a dark brown. So I have brown in here. Let's just mix a little bit of purple with it, a little more burnt sienna. And I think they're not black, they're just dark. Let's start with this one here. There's a little pattern of them that work out and up into there. They start small, get bigger. Ah, yes, I think that's working. Little brush. I have my little pinky on the ground. And then I turn, so really watching that pattern of them and seeing how they run is important for this to look like these flowers. These are alströmerias, and they have a very distinctive patterning. And then let's make this just a little bit darker right there. And okay. This one, a little bit smaller, it's a little further away. These guys, we can't see them super well because it's turned away from us, but it does come up and onto that red. This one here. And I think I can use this same brown to help define this stamen that's coming out here. It's lighter than its background, but the background has gotten dark and almost purplish. Ooh, and there's a dark spot. I'm gonna need a dark green. There's a dark spot, just a little triangle right here. And let's take that in a little further. Let's take this in just a little further. Okay. Go back to those browns for my stripes, my little spot stripes. And there's a few more over here. Just got to pay attention to the fact that they fan out from the center of those petals. So they start down at the base and sort of fan out. That's the brush I was using, yeah. One other flower here, which could maybe deal with a little bit of that purple in the red. And that's this bud. Okay, where else? Let's get a little bit darker right here. And break up that red area there with a couple of darker spots. I see the end of a flower. Okay. Oh, I have one more place that I need to do those little stripes. And then I think we might be about done with this painting. I'm going to have to step back and see it from a distance. I see one other thing here, and that's this little area right here. Needed some breaking up in it. Just so those don't stand out as being a whole lot different than the other flowers.